If you're looking at discovering the power of Mac at scale with a new insightful podcast, well, We Got Your Mac enables you to join IT and business leaders as they delve into the benefits and considerations of adopting Apple Mac's platform in your organization. So if you're looking to gain the knowledge and confidence you need to make more informed decisions, tune into their guest expert episodes released every 2 weeks. Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Hi everyone, just a quick shout out. Check out the all-new We Got Your Mac podcast. They dive into why businesses might want to embrace the Apple Mac platform on a large scale and allow you to explore the transformative power it can bring to your organisation, from enhancing employee experience to boosting productivity and even reshaping your organisation's image by allowing your teams to work on those Apple devices that they love. So they have new episodes every 2 weeks. They feature expert guests sharing knowledge and expertise around this topic. So subscribe to the podcast today, We Got Your Mac, and you can go to wegotyourmac.com to stay up to speed with the latest trends and insights. But today I'm being joined by a remarkable guest. She's on a mission to fast-track economic equity and also revolutionise the tech industry. Her name is Milena Berry. She's the co-founder and CEO of PowerToFly, which is the fastest growing global platform dedicated to upskilling and connecting underrepresented talent with highly visible sectors, all in the pursuit of fostering diversity and inclusion. So much to talk about today, so buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Brooklyn, where today's guest is waiting to join us. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi there. First of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Milena Berry, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of PowerToFly. I'm a first-generation immigrant to the U.S. I grew up in communist Bulgaria and went to a study abroad program in Wolverhampton. That's a tidbit of the day I wasn't planning to share. And I'm proud to say that I consider myself as one of the stories of hope for women in tech. I also identify as queer. I'm married to a transgender woman and really identify with the struggles and the hope of that community. And last but not least, really first and foremost, I'm a parent of 4. My kids are honestly the best thing I've done with my life. And like everyone, my identity is not static. I keep reflecting on it, and I definitely see how it's evolved over the years.
Well, it's a huge honor to have you on the show with me today. One of the things I try and do every day is show how technology works best when it brings people together. And I know this is something you're incredibly passionate about. So for people that are listening to our conversation today, hearing about PowerToFly for the very first time, can you tell me a little bit more about the mission that you're on there and how your platform is uniquely positioned to address some of the challenges around diversity and inclusion in the workforce and workplace at the moment? Because it's a huge topic right now, isn't it? And quite rightly so.
Yeah. And it's an honor to be here and to talk to you about this very important issue. So PowerToFly's mission is to create equitable opportunities for the workforce in our world. And of course, there's a mission statement that's pretty broad, pretty big. Honestly, I'll be working my whole life towards it. But what does it mean in practice? I describe PowerToFly as a two-sided platform. On one side, we work with companies to help them attract, recruit, and engage underrepresented talent. And on the other side, we help underrepresented talent find good jobs, network, and upskill. We have been in the space for about 10 years now, and during that time, we've generated over $10 billion in salaries for underrepresented talent. So our deep expertise in the space, combined with our strong brand that we've been able to build over this time period, positions us uniquely to address those challenges. And one more thing I want to say, while PowerToFly has a strong base in our platform and our software, we aren't just another SaaS platform, right? We aren't just another tool. It's our community that's one of our strongest differentiators. And of course, is something near and dear to our hearts, because we believe in the power of fulfilling yourself, in the fact that talent is equally distributed, but opportunity is not. And that's really one of our core beliefs that's propelling how we fulfill our mission.
And that's one of the things that put you on my radar, set off my tech spidey sensors, because it's not just about technology, it is about community. And also you had some fantastic innovations in talent acquisition too, especially with the launch of the new candidate search feature in PowerPro. So can you tell me a little bit more about that and how you envision that to help transform the way companies approach talent acquisition, particularly in terms of diversity and inclusion?
Yeah, so one of the statements I've been hearing in customer conversations for the last 10 years, right, as the problem statement is, diverse talent is just not there. I don't know where to find it. There's none of the people I'm looking for in my pipeline, right? Like people just, raise their hands and say, it's not my problem, I can't solve it, it's too hard, etc. So it's so easy to default to diverse talent. It's just not there, complaining of lack of representation in the pipeline. And one of the key things to remember, though, that I've learned over these 10 years of working in the space is that to achieve results in diversity recruiting, you can't just sit and wait for underrepresented folks to apply. You have to tell them the story of why they would belong. You have to proactively reach out to them and ask them if they would be interested in your company. And that's what our new candidate search feature is all about, right? We're allowing you to effortlessly source from 20 million underrepresented profiles. So imagine doing a search in our tool and you search something, let's say a CFO, Chief Financial Officer. If you do that search in candidate search, you will find over 27,000 qualified CFOs who are also diverse. I mean, this is a total game changer, right? Like you can, and then of course, after that, you have to reach out to them multiple times, by the way, just like you do in cold calling in sales, to engage them with your mission. But having that powerful candidate search as a starting point is an amazing starting point. And I should say the product also includes an auto matching feature, which allows you to just upload a job rec and without any further action, generate a large top of funnel for you. We've actually leveraged ChatGPT with this core matching technology. It's really so cool and saves recruiters a ton of time.
And I've been doing this podcast now for 8.5 years, 2,600 interviews, and it seems that in that time, I've spoken about addressing discrimination in tech so many times, and things are getting a little better. But given the concerning statistics about discrimination still in the tech industry here in 2023 and soon to be 2024, how does PowerToFly's approach to diversity recruiting help mitigate some of these issues that we keep sadly reading about?
Yeah, so our core products are really in employer branding and talent acquisition, but we realized that this is really not enough in terms of, how rounded that solution was in order to address the problem and the mission that we're after, right? And so we started providing training and consulting services to help companies address the systemic issues, right? That bubble up as discriminatory practices. In fact, we also have a new product called Power Up, which addresses that problem at scale, where a company can literally assign all of their employees trainings on unconscious bias, microaggressions, inclusive hiring, among others, right? So that you can kind of continue this upskilling process. I will say that we're working on a problem that has existed for millennia, not even tens of years, not even centuries, millennia of discrimination, right? So this is going to take some time to undo, and it's not going to be fixed with just a one-off initiative here and a one-off initiative there and one training here, one training there. This has to be an ongoing effort with proper funding and proper time allocated to it, right, over many quarters and years. That's how you address these systemic issues, with consistency and investment over time.
And for any business leader that's listening to our conversation and they want to do everything you just said there, but unsure on where to start, or maybe find it overwhelming or challenging and just need a little help, a little guidance, are there any effective, sticky diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging policies that companies could implement to ensure diversity and inclusion are deeply integrated into that hiring process and company culture, and begin to make those changes? Because I do think we're at this magical time of year. We're just about to go into 2024. We want change. We want to make things better. I think it'd be a great opportunity for you to share some of those policies that they might be able to implement.
Yeah. So a couple of things here. First of all, I don't believe in DEIB being a one person's job, right? Let's say so many companies, they appoint their chief diversity officer, or maybe their head of DEI, or maybe their DEI program manager if they're a smaller company, right? But it can't be one person's job. It needs to be everyone's job. And then, of course, people are not qualified, so you have to give them the training so that they understand the concepts, and they really need to participate and own that process across the org. I also think it's very important that you don't just throw spaghetti at the wall, but you come up with your, let's say, a 3-year strategy and roadmap, and you spell out which initiatives you're going to cover in those 3 years. You know, you take into considerations your resources, your budget, the space and time, what you can chew off. Some companies can go faster, other companies have to go slower. That's totally fine. But make a plan, roadmap, and determine what KPIs you're going to use to measure those efforts with. And then finally, I think one of the things I really recommend is to link incentive compensation to those DEI goals. So don't just say this is important. Make it important for my paycheck, and not just for the CEO, not just for the C-suite, not just for the directors and the managers, for everybody in the org. That's how change happens, is when you actually incent the whole org. This is a core initiative. It really matters. So we're going to link your pay to it. Now, you know what happens when that happens? Magic. All of a sudden, progress happens, So I think it's really, really important. And then, there's a lot of more tactical things I can tell you that should be part of your 3-year strategy. But I wanted to kind of leave you with the overall sentiment there.
Love that. And of course, it is people that's driving this change. But if we bring it back to technology just for a moment, how do you at PowerToFly utilize data and indeed analytics to enhance that recruitment process and ensure a diverse pool of candidates? I'd love to find out a little bit more about under the hood there and how data and technology makes that possible.
Well, I mean, everything we do is on top of data and technology. So very, very important, of course. But concretely, couple of things I want to call out. So first of all, we have, of course, an analytics dashboard as one of our products that's really showing the customers what they're successful with and what they're not. We actually ask our community to self-identify alongside, different vectors of identity. And we have an incredibly high completion rate because, again, we have a certain level of trust with our community, and they know we're not going to, we're only going to be showing this data in aggregate and not in specific. So it won't be a compromise with their data. But what that allows us to do, this high completion rate of our self-identified identity data allows us to then analyze the pre-application funnel for a company, right? So first of all, companies are struggling to get identity data anywhere in their company, right? When after you're an employee, they ask you to self-disclose. Not everybody would. That's a very low completion rate, traditionally speaking. During the hiring process, very few ask that question. We're even asking it before on that top of funnel. And so, again, it's another game changer where companies have come and told us that they're completely blind. They can see their funnel once applicants enter their applicant tracking system. But before it, top of funnel, they have no idea of the composition of that, applicant pool or what's happening. So that's what PowerToFly brings to the table, is this visibility into your top of funnel efforts and whether, what's the representation in that top of funnel. That's pretty much how we think about it.
And I'm curious, as someone that's having conversations with so many different organizations around the world, what are some of the biggest challenges you see companies facing in achieving diversity in their workforce? And maybe expand on how you help them with PowerToFly to overcome some of those obstacles too.
So I think what's really important is that, again, like, I don't think companies, we talked about the problem with the pipeline and how PowerToFly helps that, right? You have to reach out to folks. The other piece is that you have to invest in your employer brand and in those stories of hope, right? I started this podcast talking about how I'm a story of hope for women in tech. That's because, I don't feel like I had to choose between career and kids. And I actually had a pretty good going in technology before, switching over to be a CEO in PowerToFly. And that story of hope, I hope, inspires others who look like me to know that they will belong and they too can start their own company and they too can be an entrepreneur and successful in the field. That same concept of storytelling, persuading somebody that they can belong, is very applicable for underrepresented folks in the workplace, right? So we advise companies to publish those stories in the form of videos and blog posts. Again, we can help with that, but you can also do it on your own, where you feature somebody of a certain gender, ethnicity, or other affinity status, and talk about, this is why I moved to this company, and this is what my day-to-day looks like. It has to be a story not just about their identity, of course. The identity is going to inspire, but there also has to be a story that teaches the user something. Because again, what do we want out of a job? We want to learn, right? First and foremost, that's what makes you stick in a job, is if you keep learning. So that's kind of a vehicle that you can actually, put in the flywheel effect that then helps you with your diversity goals.
And something I also wanted to bring up, because I often get disheartened by the negative portrayal of the future, especially with technology. I challenge anyone to name me a sci-fi movie, for example, that portrays a positive future, not a dystopian future. And equally, we go through our news feed and every story related to technology is almost dystopian and paints that negative aspect. But I'm an optimist by nature. And in your view, how do you see the landscape of diversity and inclusion in the workplace evolving in the next few years for the better? And also what role technology will play in that evolution? Because I think we need to restore the balance in the universe and share these positive aspects too.
I agree. And again, it's such a complex problem. So it's not going to be a straight up to the right. There's going to be peaks and valleys, and we're going to feel like we've moved forward and something's going to happen. Something happens every week, right? That's going to really feel like it's a setback and a step backwards. And so I think what's important, though, is to kind of keep on going. Now, what I foresee, I'm with you. I'm definitely on the optimistic side. I wouldn't be doing this work if I didn't have this inherent optimism in me. Because again, this is my life's work. It's not going to be done when I'm dead, right? It's gotta continue going. And I do believe technology is a driving force. In particular, how it really facilitated remote work for enabling more accessible opportunities, right? I think that has been a fascinating way. And I think remote work, I talk about one of our customers, Meta, and their annual diversity reports. It was fascinating, right? For years, they were making slow progress, with a huge investment in this space and on this problem. And then the year that COVID hit and they opened Meta to remote job opportunities, all of a sudden the diversity metrics took a huge leap for the better, right? And that's the story that I think is really important, especially in this year when a lot of companies are asking people to go back in the office. Well, just know that that's not the most conducive for having a very, diverse slate of workers or even slate in hiring that you can have, right? Like if you open up the talent pool to remote, you get a lot better choices on that front. Now, I do think platforms like PowerToFly are going to continue to play this pivotal role, connecting diverse talent with companies globally. And as the workforce kind of, embraces this innovative tools, technology will be totally a catalyst for dismantling barriers, fostering collaboration, and eventually shaping a more diverse, inclusive, and dynamic professional landscape. I do want to say that Gen AI is a fascinating, obviously, not a newcomer, but, it's new on our radar. and how it's kind of transforming, and the potential to transform HR tech is humongous. We can have a whole lot of conversation about Gen AI and HR tech. Happy to talk about it further. But, we really are leveraging Gen AI to streamline recruitment, enhance personalization, boost productivity. So again, it's so important, by the way, as we are implementing this new technology, we think about the rules that we put in place for it, right? So, for example, Gen AI can actually do a blind evaluation because you can tell it, discount XYZ field from this profile. A human, once they've seen you, they cannot turn off the bias. The brain doesn't work that way, while the machine can. So we can really think of how to build, more ethical, aspects of technology and all the new tech that we're building. But the potential is huge, and I'm totally with you on the optimism.
It sounds like we need to get you back on next year to explore Gen AI and HR tech as well. I think there's a whole episode up for discussion there. And hopefully, I think our conversation today will set off light bulb moments in change makers and business leaders listening all over the world. And for those people that are listening now, is there any final advice or parting tips that you'd give to a business leader or HR professional who are striving to make their organization more inclusive, more diverse? What would be that powerful takeaway?
Thank you. So, I know it's been a weird year and not everybody's hiring. A lot of people are laying off. So I totally get it. But if you are hiring, I really urge you to be stubborn about having a diverse slate that you're hiring from. You do not choose somebody based on their identity. I want to be very clear. That is not legal. But what you can do is make sure that your pipeline is represented, and then your final slate, that your job, right, for every job you are interviewing underrepresented talent. Even if you get to that point, your results are going to be amazing on the diversity hiring front. And if you're not hiring, then spend your time doing other things in the meantime while you wait for your headcount needs to increase, right? What are those things? Number one, employer brand. Back to telling the story of why an underrepresented talent would belong in your org by featuring people who are already of certain demographics in your org, representing your logo in key, diversity and affinity focused conferences, etc. And then on the flip side, also really invest in training and engaging your employees, your current employees, and engaging them in those topics, in self-learning, in moderating conversations on these important topics, right? You can keep on the learning. And by the way, that's going to help with the belonging. It's going to help you retain those folks as well while you're not hiring. And again, I'm a leader myself. I'm not hiring, but I'm definitely working on my retention efforts. And last but not least, you can take responsibility for your own learning. However you do that, just keep on learning always. Of course, we're here to help. If you wanted to work with PowerToFly, give us a call. Reach out to us. We're happy to help. But this commitment to continued learning on those topics is one of the key things you can do.
I think everything you achieve is absolutely inspirational. Your passion still shines through today. And I know, as you said there, it is your life's work. But if I ask you to just look back for a moment at your own career, because none of us are able to achieve any degree of success without a little help along the way. Maybe somebody saw something in you, invested a little time in you, maybe inspired you. Is there a particular person that you would be grateful towards to help you get you where you are, that maybe we can give a little shout out to today?
Well, she's no longer with us, but her name is Red Burns. And for those of you who don't know her, please Google her and learn more about her. She is dubbed the mother of Silicon Alley because she was an innovator who started an incredible program focused on the intersection of technology and arts, and really working on futuristic technologies in the 70s in New York City. I went to this graduate program. That's how I made my way into the US. And back in the day, she invested in me by giving me a scholarship when my bank account ran out of money and I was about to be kicked out and not be able to graduate. And it was really her passing at the age of 80-something in 2013, about 10 years ago, that prompted me to start reflecting on all of those who have given to me throughout my lifetime and how it was my turn to give back. So she's an incredible person who has, curated so much of the innovation that we're seeing in New York City through education of some of the best technologists in the city have gone through that program. And so I want everybody to know about her name and remember her.
I'll include a link and show notes to some of her work too. And I know you're on a mission to partner with a top 100 brands to bring them a slew of diversity solutions provided through the PowerToFly platform. But for anyone listening that wants to join this movement that you're creating here, maybe just find out more information or even just start a conversation with your team, where would you like to point them to?
Yeah, always come to PowerToFly.com, submit a form, we'll get back to you, or find me on LinkedIn. If you say that you're coming from the TED Talks Daily podcast, we're happy to give you 5% discount on your first year fees. So definitely make sure to tell us that that's where you heard about us. And I hope to see you on LinkedIn or on PowerToFly.
Well, again, such a powerful story. And I love your journey here to becoming the fastest growing global platform dedicated to fast tracking economic equity by upskilling and connecting unrepresented talent to roles in highly visible sectors. It is such important work. It is your life's work. We will get you back on next year to talk about HR tech and Gen AI. I could chat with you for hours, but just thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Neil.
So a huge thank you to today's guest for sharing her invaluable insights and experiences on diversity and inclusion in the tech industry. And I, for one, learned how PowerToFly is not just a platform for connecting underrepresented talent with opportunities, but it's also a beacon of hope for a more inclusive future in technology, which has to be a great thing. And Milena's dedication to economic equity and her commitment to making the workforce more diverse, truly inspiring stuff. And I think the big message there as well is diversity is not just about checking boxes. It's simply creating an environment where every voice is heard, every talent is recognised. And if you found today's conversation as enjoyable as I did, please let me know your thoughts on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes, or send me a quick email, techblogwriter@outlook.com. But that's it for today, so thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, don't be a stranger.